In the middle of Paris, inside the most guarded museum on earth, history was stolen in broad daylight. No gunfire, no alarms, just silence, and then absence. When the guards arrived, the glass was shattered, the cases were empty, and centuries of royal power had simply vanished. The Louvre home of the Mona Lisa had been breached. And what disappeared wasn't just gold or diamonds. It was the brilliance of an empire. But what exactly was taken? And why did the thieves choose those jewels? It happened in broad daylight, right under the world's eyes. Two men, using a basket lift, reached the first floor of the Louvre's Apollo Gallery. They forced open a window, shattered the display glass, and escaped before anyone could react. No alarms were triggered. No witnesses saw them. In just minutes, they vanished with the jewels once worn by France's most powerful women, empresses and queens. Why target jewelry linked to Napoleon himself, and not paintings worth hundreds of millions? To understand what was stolen, we need to understand what they truly represented. Because every gem taken that day carried the weight of an empire's memory. To understand what was stolen, we need to return to the moment those jewels were born, a time when beauty was used as a weapon of power. It was 1810. Napoleon Bonaparte stood at the height of his empire. He had conquered armies, rewritten laws, and crowned himself emperor. But now he needed a queen. Maria Luisa of Austria wasn't just a wife. She was a political alliance, a symbol that France's new empire could stand among the old monarchies of Europe. And to mark that union, Napoleon ordered something extraordinary. He summoned Francois Nietet, his personal jeweler, and demanded a creation worthy of destiny itself. A necklace and earrings set with 32 Colombian emeralds, surrounded by nearly 1,000 diamonds. Each stone was cut by hand, framed in gold, and arranged with mathematical precision. It wasn't fashion, it was propaganda in gemstone form. Every shimmer of light reflected the message Napoleon wanted the world to see, that his empire was eternal. Marie Louise wore the emeralds as her crown of legitimacy, a reminder that power could sparkle as brightly as any throne, but empires fade faster than diamonds. When Paris fell in 1814, she fled with her son, and with the jewels. Over the next 2 centuries, the emeralds would travel from Vienna to Tuscany, survive revolutions, and rest in private collections before finally returning to France. In 2004, the Louvre displayed them again, restored and radiant, a piece of imperial history under protective glass. But now that glass lies shattered, and for the second time in history, Napoleon's gift to his empress has vanished. Hortense de Beauharnais never imagined her inheritance would become part of the mystery of the stolen jewels. The daughter of Josephine and stepdaughter of Napoleon, she inherited not only imperial blood, but also the burden of carrying the brilliance that once legitimized a throne. Among those gifts was a set of sapphires and diamonds, the same jewels that would later crown Maria Amélia, the forgotten Queen of France. The deep blue of those stones was more than a color. It was a statement. It represented blue blood, the power and fragility of royalty. When Maria Amélia posed for her portrait wearing the necklace and tiara, she seemed to embody the ghost of a fallen empire. A living reminder of the French royal jewelry that once gleamed in Versailles and would later vanish into the shadows of the Louvre Museum Theft. The strangest detail: the thieves took the tiara, the necklace, and only one earring, just one, a symbolic gesture, as if they wanted to leave an echo, a provocation. Perhaps the Louvre Jewelry Heist was never only about gold, but about historical irony, the power that, out of pride, insists on leaving traces. But what if what vanished with those sapphires was more than an ornament, but the memory of an entire era? Empress Eugénie was the last face of French luxury before the fall. Married to Napoleon III, she turned splendor into armor. Every diamond was a form of resistance. Every pearl, a disguise for the fear of the end. At imperial banquets, she shimmered with the Napoleon Imperial Treasures, as if their brilliance could hold back the shadow of history. Among her most famous pieces were the relic brooch, made from the diamonds of Cardinal Mazarin, the diamond bow with more than 4,000 stones, and the pearl and diamond tiara adorned with 212 pearls and nearly 2,000 diamonds. They were not mere ornaments, they were living relics, echoes of a time when power was measured in light. Today, these works have become part of the enigma of the lost artifacts of the Louvre, fragments of glory that shattered in silence. During the Louvre Museum Theft, a broken crown was found and it spoke louder than any headline. It was as if the empire had once again collapsed within its own reflection. Eugénie spent her final years in exile, far from the jewels and the throne, yet surrounded by the memories of what once was. And what if the brilliance she left behind still held a secret, an echo of the empire waiting to be rediscovered? Not every theft is committed by thieves. Some are the work of time. The Louvre Museum Theft of 1911, when the Mona Lisa vanished for 2 years, is only the visible face of a much older mystery. Within those silent galleries, stories of lost, recovered, and then lost again pieces whisper through the walls. Many of the Napoleon Imperial Treasures met the same fate, disappearing for decades, then resurfacing in auctions or private vaults. It is as if the museum breathes invisibly, reviving the past and turning it into legend. The lost artifacts of the Louvre are not only listed in catalogs, they live in the tales told by night guards, restorers, and those who swear they hear footsteps long after everyone has left. Some say there is a symbolic curse. The power of these jewels never belongs to one owner alone. Perhaps the Louvre does not guard only art, but also the shadows of those who never wish to lose it. But if those ghosts still wander its halls, what happens when someone tries to sell them? Every jewel has an origin, but not all have a destiny. Pieces tied to the Louvre Jewelry Heist are almost impossible to resell. They are too unique, too well documented, and yet they keep reappearing, discreetly, in the hands of collectors who never show their faces. It is luxury transformed into secrecy. Art experts claim that a parallel market exists where artworks and historical relics circulate far from the spotlight. Private auctions, bank-mediated sales, expertly crafted replicas designed to hide the real trail. In many cases, the French royal jewelry are only the visible tip of a network driven by power, vanity, and money. Enormous sums of money. And some whisper that part of the lost artifacts of the Louvre never left Paris at all, that they changed owners, not cities. What if these jewels never left the museum? They just changed hands. The question echoes through the corridors and the back rooms of antique dealers. But if luxury once sustained empires, how did it shape power itself in 19th century France? In the 19th century, power and aesthetics walked hand in hand. Napoleon III, and Louis Philippe understood that an empire could not stand on armies alone. It needed symbols. The brilliance of the Napoleon Imperial Treasures was the most refined form of propaganda. Every crown, necklace, and brooch told a carefully constructed story designed to legitimize whoever sat on the throne. The French royal jewelry were both art and politics. Their design was never chosen out of taste, but out of strategy. Pearls to suggest purity, emeralds to imply eternity, diamonds to assert authority. This aesthetic engineering was the media of an era when a tiara could speak louder than any speech. That is why every one of the lost artifacts of the Louvre represents far more than a theft. It is the loss of a message, of a code of power. The jewels mirrored the French state's attempt to reinvent itself after every imperial collapse. But if the king's brilliance has faded, why do some of these pieces keep resurfacing, as if refusing to disappear? The empire may have fallen, but the brilliance remains. The Louvre Jewelry Heist was not just a theft, it was a historical repetition. A reminder that France still strives to protect something beyond jewels. When the stolen French crown jewels disappeared, it was not only gold that was lost, it was the memory of a nation trying to preserve its glory within glass cases and stained glass windows. Today, the Napoleon Imperial Treasures continue to captivate the world. They appear in exhibitions, documentaries, and in rumors about new discoveries hidden in private vaults. Even when broken or fragmented, still inspired the same fascination as if time itself had no power over what was born to symbolize eternity. And perhaps that is the true mystery behind the lost artifacts of the Louvre. That power never disappears, it merely changes form. The brilliance of the crowns may have been stolen, but the fascination that never dies. But what if, in the end, what was taken from the Louvre is still there, hidden in plain sight? The Louvre Jewelry Heist continues to raise more questions than answers. The authorities may have closed the case, but the stories behind the stolen French crown jewels remain alive, whispering through the museum's corridors as if time itself still guarded its secrets. What was taken from the Louvre was not only treasure, but the memory of a glory France refuses to let fade. But what if part of that treasure is still hidden inside the Louvre? If you want to keep uncovering the mysteries history tried to conceal, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There is still much brilliance waiting to be revealed.